We've been talking to the newly elected congressman from the 1st District in New York. Uh, we've been talking about a number of issues that face the American people, and I would say that the fact that we've only glossed the surface of what problems confront us. Getting back to the topic that we were discussing, the immigration question. Long Island, your part of Long Island, has had some problem with immigration for some time. Do you think this new interest on immigration is going to be something that's going to be significantly affect you?
I think it's a good debate that has intensified over the course of the last several months, when the national news last summer was being dominated by the story related to the surge of unaccompanied immigrant children across our southern border. Here on Long Island, we saw thousands of those children come here. That's just in the first half of 2014. It's a healthy debate to have. We must do the best job that we can as far as securing our entry process. Part of it is with our physical security on our southern border, our northern border. There are many different ways that people come here to our country. Sometimes people come here to our country legally, but then stay longer than they're supposed to. I have a lot of compassion for every child in this world suffering from oppression and poverty. But using that as an example, we don't have the bandwidth to allow every child in the entire world who's suffering from oppression and poverty to come here to the United States unlimited. And I also think of the support that's out there for legal immigration. There's a lot of the immigration debate you hear dividing Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals. The fact is, so many solutions have support on both sides of the aisle. But what happens is, when you come up with 1,000 different solutions to the 1,000 challenges related to immigration, you'll find controversial hot topics, and it's unfortunate that we see this insistence on putting everything into one bill. The controversial and the non-controversial. I think that we need to do a better job securing our borders. When you have a leak, the first thing that you do is you turn off the faucet. You don't take out a mop. And we need to find areas with regards to legal immigration where we can find that agreement.
What do you do with the illegals today and now?
We need to reduce the numbers. A lot of the debate is, how do you I'm not saying you're asking me this question right now, but some people literally in a 5-second soundbite, they say, what do you do with 11 or 12 million people who are here? And the fact is that there are ways to reduce that number that we can find agreement on today in Congress, that the president can sign, a legislation that we're having this interview. I was just at Stony Brook University, the largest employer in our district, and they have a big research and development effort there at the university. They have people who come here, they get their college degrees, their graduate degrees, they want to stay, they want to contribute, but they're unable to legally. On the North Fork of Long Island, in the vineyards, you have employers who follow the rules, employees that come here, they want to contribute, pay taxes, do their hard work, and go back home. Same thing on the South Fork with the tourism and hospitality industry. The legal immigration process, by working on some of our rules, we can reduce the amount of people who are here illegally. And I give a few examples. The fact is, the solution isn't in a soundbite. It's by looking at the profiles, the hundreds of different profiles of those millions of people who are here illegally. You'll find people who are here illegally who have built up quite the criminal record. They serve time in prison. They're active in gangs and gang recruitment. Why are they still here? Why do we keep them here? Why have we not sent them back home to their home country? So there are many different, and I would advocate that that's something that we can find common ground between liberals and conservatives, Republicans and Democrats. So and you know what? You're not going to be able to make that number of millions to zero in a soundbite. It's not going to pass Congress tomorrow. It's not going to get signed by the president. but we need to see how we can reduce the number here. That's a good first step. We spend so much time debating how do we get rid of 100% of the problem that the problem only gets worse.
On that same question, I just want to get back to what we were talking about before. What happens when you go to Congress now and the party seems bent upon some sort of retribution for the overstepping of the president? What is the answer? Shut down the Congress?
I don't think that the sentiment that exists within the party in Congress is, how do we, punitively hurt the president? It's, there is people who philosophically believe that what the president did was unconstitutional and bad policy. There's a disagreement amongst Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals, as to how to tackle the immigration challenges here in the country. The opposition that you'll see in Washington, a lot of them just believe that the president's action is unconstitutional and it's bad public policy. And there's also concern that if he is able to do this now, what will he do next? He still has 2 more years in office. What are the next 5 executive orders going to look like? What are the topics, the subject matters, the subject areas that they'll go after? There are many options with regards to the president's most recent executive order. And I think what's important for the party is to unite behind a strategy as opposed to getting caught up for the next weeks and months on debating the most effective response and, in effect, ending up with none. As far as shutting down the government, I think that people want to see government operating efficiently and effectively. And the same people who say that about a shutdown, a lot of them are upset about the president's executive order. So I think that it's key, it's critical that that there is an active public debate. There's good discourse as far as what the most effective response is. Congress has the power of the purse. And just because they don't fund one particular aspect of the federal budget does not mean the government needs to shut down. With the power of the purse, we've only seen one federal budget since 2007. That includes times where the Democrats had total control of Congress, times where the Republicans and Democrats shared power in the House and Senate, and now we're moving into a period where Republicans will control Congress. The entire time, obviously, we have, since the January of 2009, we've had President Obama in office, but one budget since 2007. I think that we'll see budgets again. I'm very hopeful. I'm optimistic for it. Nothing's guaranteed as far as Washington goes. Congress has the power of the purse. I think the most important way, most important option, maybe the one that ends up prevailing as the best path forward, is to utilize the power of the purse in a way that that tackles this challenge with the president's executive order.
Well, you sound as if you're looking to improve the collegial attitude of Congress, maybe walking across the aisle in some way to improve the efficiency of Congress and getting things done. I recall when I was in the Congress, I, as a Democrat and chairman of a committee, appointed a Republican as chairman of one of my subcommittees. I caught hell from the leadership because Congress at that time was in the hands of Democrats. But it proved to be something. We were very active in the work on anti-drugs and narcotics addiction. We had missing in action, and I appointed Ben Gilman, who was a congressman, Republican congressman from New York, as chairman of my subcommittee.
Yep.
But that's the way it was then. I'm hopeful that with people like yourself getting involved in the Congress, that there'll be much more in the way of getting together and working together as a body instead of just working as a political entity.
Yeah, listen, there is nothing at all wrong with compromise. The question is, what does that compromise look like? For some people, the only version of compromise that's acceptable to them is to have it 100% their way. That's not compromise. Talking, a lot of the stuff that I am most proud of doing as a state senator in Albany could not have happened without working with my Democratic colleagues. It's just, you have a Democratic governor, a Democratic Assembly, New York, and Republicans controlling the state Senate. There's a balance of power. If I refused to work at all with Democrats, nothing that I am so proud of would have happened, because I had to get a piece of legislation to get past the Assembly. Shelley Silver had to bring my bill to the floor for a vote. So you have to be willing to talk to colleagues. But the one thing that I obviously always keep very personally to me when reflecting on how I approach these challenges, but also a standard that I hold everyone else to, is that when your only version of compromise is getting it 100% your way, then there is no way that, you are essentially all politics all the time. You are declaring war on all of your political enemies, and you are not committed towards pursuing the best path forward. Listen, that doesn't mean, sometimes on a particular issue, there is no compromise. Your way, if you don't get it 100% your way, sorry, we won't be able to find common ground. But other times when you're trying to pass a budget, you're not going to find a budget that's going to make 535 members of Congress 100% happy. As a matter of fact, the best possible budget that you can come up with probably won't make any of the 535 members 100% happy. You need people in office who get that.
Now, one point that has been made of your victory is the fact that you're going to be one of the only Jewish members on the Republican side.
Be the only one. And you actually mentioned Ben Gilman, who was the last Jewish Republican from New York.
Right.
Then Eric Cantor after him, and then that obviously he left Congress in August. So and then we'll pick up on January.
Well, do you feel any special role as a result of that?
Well, there are opportunities to speak up on issues that I care about. And if I have a reporter calling me to ask for my opinion on Iran or Syria or ISIS or Israel, Palestinian Authority, if they're calling and asking me for my position, my quote, what's the best path forward, what's my thought on a particular decision that was made because of it, I welcome the opportunity to be able to speak up, because I'm elected to represent my constituents on the east end of Long Island. And there are times one day we might be talking about foreign affairs, the next day it may be a domestic issue. And the opportunities that present themselves to be able to advocate on behalf of what I stand for and what this district stands for is great.
Something very strange. One of my last years in Congress, I was at the White House and I had endorsed Carter. And Leslie Stahl came to me and she said, as a Jewish member of Congress, I said, let me stop you there. I said, I'm an American congressman. I happen to be Jewish by religion, but I am an American congressman. And that's the position I'm sure that you take as well.
Well, there have been times during the campaign and since the election where people from the media have called me up asking me a specific question or a few questions. And they're asking as someone who is going to be the only Jewish Republican, ... And there hasn't been a question that's been asked that I haven't seen as a good opportunity to fight for my values.
That's important.
And so that is the positive that I see about that. When we entered the race, there was it looked like we were going to go from 1 to 2 Jewish Republicans. Obviously, no one saw Eric Cantor losing his primary. That caught everyone off guard. I just think that it's important that regardless of whether there's one Jewish Republican, whether there's none, whether there's 15, that we have just a stronger, more consistent foreign policy, that we recognize that Israel is our strongest ally in the entire world, and that we do more, that the Republican Party does more to reach out to Jewish Democrats to talk to them about issues where we can agree. It doesn't mean that the Jewish Democrats are going to vote Republican or change their party registration, but I think that the dialogue can improve.
Great. I'm very happy to have had this opportunity of talking to you
Thank
and getting to know you. Being a Long Islander myself, it's important that we have good representation here.
And thank you for your service, both in Congress and as a World War II veteran. It's you have a very impressive service to our country in uniform. So thank you for that.
Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And now until next week, same time, this is Lester Wolff saying so long from Long Island, not from Washington this time.